Welcome to the 2014 Associated Students Incorporated debate, sponsored by the Collegian. I'm Franz, news editor of the Collegian, and I'll be today's moderator. Fresno State students can vote Tuesday, March 25th through Thursday, March 27th through noon to elect the next student body president and new student body officers. The Collegian is proud to present this debate featuring 3 ASI candidates running for the office of president. The first candidate to my left is Bertoni. Mr. Bertoni is a sophomore majoring in business marketing, and he currently serves as an ASI senator. The second candidate is Lizbeth De La Cruz. Ms. De La Cruz is a Spanish graduate student and is part of Club Austral on campus. The third candidate is Moses Menchaca. Mr. Menchaca is a senior political science major and is ASI's current president. They will each have 1 minute to give their opening statements, and I will then ask them a series of questions. If you'd like to start, Mr. Bertoni.
I just first want to say thank you so much to everyone being here today. It's a great testament to see the students here and being involved on campus. Like Jesse said, my name is Bertoni. I'm currently a sophomore business marketing major, and I have had the pleasure to serve on ASI this past year on the Student Senate under Moses. I got involved with ASI my freshman year coming here. I knew it's something I wanted to do. It's the passion that I have to serve students here. I'm on this slate called For Students Now. We came up with that name basically because we want to be available and as accessible to students as possible. We want to know what it is you guys need, what it is you guys want. We don't want distractions coming in, if elected, with what it is we think you guys need and what you want. You guys should know who's representing you. And so, I'm a local candidate right here from Fresno. I know the university pretty well. I know the community pretty well. The community is excited about this. I've gotten calls to my family members, to me personally, people in the community saying, wow, Bertoni's running for president. Alumni from like 15, 20 years ago are excited about their university again. This is Fresno's university. That's a huge testament. And this really is my passion and what I want to do. I'm committed to this, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Bertoni. Ms. De La Cruz?
First of all, thank you for everyone for being here. It's a good turnout. I am glad that you guys are interested in getting to know your future ASI president. Like they said, my name is Lizbeth De La Cruz, and I am a first-generation college student. I graduated last year from the College of Arts and Humanities with honors, and I received a medallion for completing a thesis as an undergrad. So that's a big accomplishment, not only for me, but for my family. I am interested in running for ASI to represent the students here on campus. It's my first year trying to get involved with ASI. So I'll have a fresh look into the school campus, especially for the ASI policies here that ASI tries to implement in the community. I am very interested in education. I want to be a college professor in the future, so just education is one of my main emphasis, and I want to help out the students to be able to graduate within a positive time frame. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And President Menchaca.
First, I'd want to thank you, Jesse, and thank the Collegian for allowing students the opportunity to see all 3 candidates today. And I want to thank the students for taking the time out of your day to come and become educated voters. Hoping that during this time, you'll be able to see all the great work that ASI has been able to do. And I feel that if reelected, I'll be able to continue the great work that we've been able to do this past year. Under my presidency, we've gotten more students on more committees than ever before. And I can guarantee even more engaged and active students next year. We've had more developments within community revitalization efforts, and we're now in a transition stage where we're seeing that the community is finally discussing what ways can we give back, and in what ways can we help out those students. And I feel that my reelection is imperative now more than ever, because one thing that only happens once every 20 to 30 years is the changes that are occurring. The president is new, 3 out of 4 vice presidents are new, and there are more changes to come. And with these changes, I think it is imperative that the student voice remains strong and constant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will go into the question period. I will ask a series of questions of each candidate, and they will respond. We have drawn numbers to go in order, and we will alternate that order throughout the questions. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to the question, and at the end of, at the end of the questions, after everyone has answered, you'll have 2 minutes to debate the policies amongst yourselves. All right, so we're going to start with the first question, and Bertoni is going to start us off. What would be the #1 priority if elected president, and how would you go about achieving that goal?
Yeah, for me, there's a lot of priorities, but the first one, I want students to know where their fees are going. I want that transparency with the fees that you're paying to the university to be shown. Our current VP of Finance, she's here in the audience today, Becca Rosengarten, helped start the OpenGov.com tool. And that's a tool that might not be here next year for students to use. Basically, that just shows the transparency of where your fees are going. It breaks it down into a very easy, tangible way to see for students. One thing I want to do is, if it's not guaranteed to be here next year for students, I want to allocate funds, work on that, making sure that students have that tool. And basically, with the ASI budget, sponsored activity grants, the line item on that, I think that's one of the biggest ways to give back students their fees. A lot of different clubs and organizations have opportunities to apply for these sponsored activity grants, $3,000 a semester, that's huge. And I want to allocate more money. We're currently, it's $86,000, I believe, allocated. I want to get that up to $120,000 next year. Directly money that can go back to students for the fees that you are paying. And just being as accessible and available to students as possible. Again, I can't stress the importance of you guys knowing who's representing you. So.
All right. Ms. De La Cruz?
For me, one of my priorities is to make sure the students know where their money is going, because I know we are having tuition increases within each year. So I want to make sure that you guys know where your money is going, and that consists of using the tool that Rosengarten helped get together to show the transparency. So if you guys go to the ASI homepage, you can actually see, and it's very interactive, so you can see where everything's going for each department, so you can know where the money is going, so you guys can feel more comfortable with the money that ASI is using for campus activities, for club funding. So you guys have any questions, you could just, instead of coming to ASI personally, you can also check the page, and if you have more questions, you can just check there. I want to make sure that clubs feel comfortable and organizations to come to ASI and put petitions to get money for any club event or anything here related for the community. So there could be a better communication between the student body and the students being represented here on campus. So that's one of my main priorities. And besides education, helping the students have more resources here on campus, like the tutoring center, the writing center, and especially the library. So we could have more library hours, which for me is very important, because you need like a space here on campus so you could come in, do your research, your homework, anything that you can't do outside campus within a reasonable space, which is comfortable for students to be here, and so you could feel safe also on campus. That's one of my main priorities here.
All right. Mr. Menchaca?
Well, for me, Jesse, the number one priority is making sure that the student voice continues to be heard. And this not only means within ASI, but also the university and the rest of the city of Fresno. Right now, we're not only expanding ASI representation, but we're expanding the university and its outreach as a whole. We're looking at different ways to bring students from high school into college to be better prepared. We're looking at ways to not only prepare the students while they're here, but help them graduate on time and efficiency. And during this whole process, it is imperative that students are at the decision-making table. As they say, if you're not at the table, then you're being eaten at the table. And I think it is imperative that we continue to make sure that students are in the conversations about fee increases, about library hours, about any of the concerns that may come up. And being ASI president, I have the understanding that we can go in with different plans, but there are issues that need to be addressed throughout the year. And we've been able to effectively combat these and be able to effectively represent students. For instance, with the student success fee, when it came out and President Castro was discussing it, I had gotten a call from his office, and I had went and met with him, and I had explained that students need to be part of this. And whether there is a fee or not, we need to make sure that students have the opportunity to voice not only their concerns with the fee, but what are the issues with the university, and how might the fee, if implemented, go to direct those services. And after that conversation, he wrote a piece to the Collegian saying that he was going to postpone the fees, to not include it into the fall of 2015, but into next year, to make sure that students have the opportunity to voice their concerns, to voice the areas that they want improvement, and to voice what their interests are in order to graduate efficiently and have a better overall experience here at Fresno State.
Definitely. And do any of you guys have any questions of any of the other candidates?
Yeah, for Jared, I kind of want to know how you're going to raise the money that we have available here for ASI from 86 to 120.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's one of the things for the office of president in that capacity. I think that the biggest thing is for them to be invested and committed to working on that actual process. Definitely it's going to be important to work with the VP of Finance. That's going to be their area of expertise. But just really voicing my opinion, getting the opinion from students about what they want, working towards that, getting advice from the past two VP of Finance chairs too. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? Definitely. We'll move on to question 2, and we'll start with Ms. De La Cruz. What do you believe the strengths and weaknesses of ASR were this year, and how would you go about addressing them?
Well, one of the strengths, and I am kind of like proof of it, Most has kind of helped a lot in my involvement with ASI. I participated in Fresno State 101, and I learned a lot of things about the UC system that I didn't know, CSU system, sorry, that I didn't know before. So just kind of having the opportunity for students here on campus is very important, because before I just came to school and I did participate in the community and on campus, but I wasn't sure of anything that, like who paid any of the expenses here for our facilities and who was in charge of each section here on campus, like this USU. So just having things like that available to students, not just the leaders from each club or organization, is very important, so our students could be involved in their tuition increase or where their money is going, especially with classes, because I feel that as an undergrad, I needed more classes available to fit my schedule. So just having that here from ASI and helping talk with administrators and staff about that issue is very important. And one of the weaknesses, I mean, I haven't heard anything really bad about ASI, maybe just kind of like getting more in contact with the students to see what they need, especially with funds, and just kind of like having more student involvement on campus, which is really important for
Definitely.
education.
Mr. Menchaca?
Well, this is a hard question to answer in only a minute, because I feel there's so many strengths that ASI was able to accomplish this past year. But if I had to pick at least one word to describe it, I think collaboration would be the biggest one. This past year, through things like the pep rally or Fresno State 101, we were able to collaborate with different student clubs on campus, with different organizations, and even with different entities, something that we've never had before. So we were able to work with athletics during the pep rally, alumni association all year long, and the collaboration continues and expands to the city. We're working with Tree Fresno right now to look at different ways to improve the community surrounding Fresno State. So I feel like that was definitely one of the strengths we had this year, is the ability to work across multiple lines, bring and unify different groups together for the betterment of the university and for the betterment of the students. One of the weaknesses, and I think this is something that happens every year, is the transition stage, where we're constantly seeing senators and executives go in and out, and things like student fees or things like making sure that the students' voice are being heard get lost in the transition period. And that's why, as I mentioned earlier, I think it is imperative that this year more than ever, we have some consistency within the student representation and the student voice. So when the vice presidents come on the campus for the first time, they see a strong candidate who knows what ASI is, who knows what the student needs are, and who can represent the students in the best manner and say, these are what our students are about, and these are the ways that we are going to be successful here at a university to make sure that our students are educated, get out on time, and are successful in the workforce. Thank you.
Mr. Bertoni?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Moses. Collaboration efforts have been huge for ASI this year. We have events such as Thirsty Thursdays that we do. Clubs and organizations can come to that. It's a good way to reach out, branch out, get exposure for your club. Tools like you said, Fresno State 101, I actually did the Emerging Leaders Retreat myself a year ago. These are big ways to get students involved here on campus and know exactly what ASI is doing. And shared governance, that's a huge thing for students to know that they are a part of, and that they can have their voice heard. I think I want to see more students come out to public comment during Senate meetings. You know, not many students do come out, but one of the weaknesses I think is that a lot of people don't know who the people on ASI are, who's representing them. To be completely honest, I was kind of surprised as this election period started when they'd be like, who are you running against? You know, Lizbeth De La Cruz, Moses. A lot of people didn't know who Moses was. As the ASI president, that worries me. That scares me. It really does. You guys should first know who's representing you, and that goes for any position in ASI. That goes as a senator, that goes as VP of Finance, anything. So,
Definitely. Any questions from the candidates?
I have a question. I attended a meeting for, I forgot what group it was, but you mentioned Tree Fresno. So can you explain more about the Tree Fresno initiative here?
Absolutely. How much time am I allotted?
We have 2 minutes total.
Perfect. So as I mentioned briefly, community revitalization efforts are going through transition stage. They used to be considered what they deemed as an entitlement state of mind, where they were looking at what can be given to me. But now we're seeing that the community is more an empowerment state of mind, where they're saying, what can we give back to the university? What can we give back to our neighborhood? So what we've been able to look at in working with the city and Tree Fresno is unifying the neighborhood through trees and shrubbery, which has effect not only by unifying, but also beautifying the surrounding community. So we've been looking at different ways to implement that and how that corresponds with the university. So for instance, they wanted to put bright red trees around El Dorado Park so that when people are driving to a game, all they see is red. And one other area that we can look at is within Fraternity and Sorority Row, where we can see that Joyelle Court having something that just pops and says that this is a separate entity, part of the community. And I think one of the biggest things that we're going to have to do moving forward is how do we begin to address the property owners? How do we begin to bring them together in order to say, this is something that is of need, and this is something that we can continue to develop and continue to make a more beneficial area. And I feel that in order to do that, we need to establish relationships within the community, such as the relationships with Free Fresno and the relationships with community members, something that I've been able to establish this year and hope to continue next year.
Definitely. Any other questions?
Can we ask another question? Okay. And have you looked at the expense that it's going to have on like the sorority, like the sorority groups are going to be not affected, but like in a positive way, like the expenses they're going to have along the road by having these trees there?
The expense for the trees are minimal, and working with Free Fresno, a lot of time that's covered. And one thing I was able to do last year was effectively fundraise. About $20,000 is what we received in different funds and sponsorships in order to cover costs. So that's something we'd look at. But again, since the city is involved, the university is involved, and Free Fresno is involved, it will reduce a lot of the costs. And one thing that we're hoping that it will be able to do is open up the conversations and the opportunities to address one issue that's been lingering around Fraternity Row for a while, and that's the lights. Because if we start unifying the different property owners by talking about the university's investment and the city's investment, we can hopefully start unifying the property owners and bringing them together and saying, these are the concerns that your that your students have, and these are the areas where we need improvement from.
Definitely. Yes.
For Moses, talking about community revitalization efforts within the Greek system in Free Fresno, I know that all three of us actually attended the Panhellenic meeting together, and they voiced their concerns about efforts with planting trees when the lighting on Fraternity Mall has, I think they said 3-year project, it has been now. And I think that's some of my constituencies. I'm a member of Sigma Chi, and I know our housing court hasn't been reached out to. I talked to some SAEs, they didn't know anything about it, AGR. I just wanted to know why is that? If this is a concern of theirs, why haven't their landowners, their property owners been talked to about that? Because I'm sure that's something that's more of a pressing issue than the trees, exactly.
Well, Senator Bertoni, I think it would be because that's who you're talking to. We actually met with the IFC treasurer, who's from AGR, who first brought the proposal about the lighting issue to us. And that was right after a meeting we had with a few of the fraternities and Theta, one of the sororities that are affected and possibly can be improved by this. And what we had found was that a lot of the property owners aren't invested and aren't involved. So that becomes another area. But I think the trees and the lighting are one way to start having those conversations, to bringing the property owners together and saying these are areas where we need improvement and where we need to address them quick, and being able to identify the best channel to do that. And it's a lot easier to say that the university, the city, and other entities are involved in this process than to have just one group or one house say that this is an area of concern. So we're hoping that the trees act as a way to channel in to the property owners in order to address those concerns.
But how do you know the property owners aren't invested if they haven't been contacted? They don't know what's all going on exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And what we wanted to do was reach out to the fraternities and sororities first, because we'd hate to step on their toes and just go straight to the property owners. So we did have that meeting with a few of the fraternities who were involved and a member from Theta to start asking those questions about how does it work? Is this something of interest? And our next step would be to contact the property owners. But now it's bringing everybody together. And something that I've been working on recently is bringing in different Greek leaders in order to identify what are the areas of concerns and wants. And of course, it's a process that we have to go through, and it's something that we are working on.
Definitely. We're going to have to stop that right there and move on to question number 3, which we'll start with Mr. Menchaca with. Next year, the university's administration will decide whether to implement 2 student fee increases. One fee increase geared to student success, and the other fee aimed towards athletics. How do you plan on representing the student voice through this process?
As I already mentioned, we were able to effectively talk with President Castro. I met with him, and they postponed the amount or the fees being implemented. So one thing we're looking at now is the open forums, providing students the opportunity to first express what are areas within the university that they want to address, and how is it going to relate to student success. So is it more tutoring? Is it more supplemental instruction? Is it better advising? We're not too sure, but that's why we're going to have the open forums. And after those discussions, along with open forums with faculty and staff, then looking at how do we address these concerns? Is it through a student fee? Is it through another venue? What is the best way to attack that concern? And so after we're able to do that, then we're able to represent students in that regard. But first it's going to come from students filling up an open forum such as they did today and voicing their concerns or voicing where their areas of interest are. But it's something that we first have to bring together, us, faculty, and staff. So I encourage all of you to help me in this participation next year and make sure that students are being represented during this discussion.
Definitely. Do you support the student fee hikes yourself?
you can't say you support or deny it if you don't know exactly where it's going to. If the students, for instance, come out and say that they want more library hours, and that's an overwhelming concern, and the way to address that is by increasing student fees $50, and that would be the area where we would go. If it's that they want a cultural community or cultural building on campus or some area like that, well, then that's the area we'd have to look at. But first, it's going to begin with the students addressing where the areas are and if it's something they want. And if it's not, then that's something we'd lobby against.
And Mr. Bertoni, how do you plan on representing the student voice through the student fee hike process?
Yeah, for me, definitely with what Moses said, this is for you guys. Our agenda and what we believe, our personal opinions, completely goes to the side. This is shared governance. Like he said, reaching out to students and seeing, is this something you want? Because there will have to be fee increases if more library hours, more tutoring services to even keep those up and running. I know that I take full advantage of the Learning Center downstairs, tutoring in that. But definitely, yeah, just doing that. But that was pretty much it.
Definitely, and just a quick follow-up question. There's also a student athletics fee that's being talked about that would roll out around the same time. How do you plan on representing the student voice through that specific one and not the student success fee?
Exactly. Again, just having to reach out to students, making myself available and accessible to them, because it's going to be what they want and what they need. If it's something that they think is necessary, then that's something I'll have to move forward with. Like Moses said, if you don't know exactly what it's about, then you need to do a little more research into that and go into that. But if it is what students want, if it is what they need, if it isn't what they want, it isn't what they need, then like you said, lobbying, making yourself an advocate for the student voice to administration.
Ms. De La Cruz?
I agree with both Jared and Moses. I just feel that students need to be more informed of these issues because when I was campaigning, students didn't know about the possible increase in tuition. So I mean, that kind of worries me because, I mean, it's part of our education and we pay for it, you know, like we get student loans out just to pay for our education. So it's very important. So I think one of the ways that we could communicate the issues going on here on campus is through the tools we have here, like the Collegian. You know, they could like promote the fee increase and kind of like tell students like, okay, this is what's going to happen and these are the positives and the negatives. And also through email because we all have access through our Fresno State email, so that's one of the good ways to contact all the students because most students just come on campus and leave because they have other priorities in their lives. So just kind of like reaching out to students and telling them what the fee is about is like a positive way to tell them what's going on.
Definitely. And do you support the fee increase idea?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say I don't support it because I have to get student loans to pay for my education, but it depends on where the money's going. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I feel that ASI has money here on campus to kind of like help support the payment for any other things like the library hours or more hours for the USU to be open. So I just feel that we have to kind of work with what we have, and if not, then yeah, we have to support an increase in tuition depending if it's beneficial for education.
Definitely. Would you guys like to ask each other any questions? No? Okay. Then we'll move on to question number 4, and we'll start with Mr. Bertoni. At this point, do you believe that the recent funding controversies in ASI from groups such as Menchaca were handled correctly, and how would you handle club funding situations like this in the future?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that both parties couldn't be appeased and happy at the same time. I personally believe, as clubs and organizations, as the senator for clubs and organizations here, I thought it was a great idea. I think that discovery, diversity, and distinction is future. That's our school's motto. The Chicano Youth Conference, what Menchaca's efforts, I think that's great what you guys are doing. Getting cultures known, getting yourself exposure to the community, to the university here. But I personally don't sit on the finance committee, and the funding that you guys were asking for didn't come to the Senate because it wasn't the amount to be it wasn't the amount that was enough to come to the Senate for us to see it. It strictly went to the Finance Committee. And I know there are policies that you have to go through, to go forth with in order to receive club funding here. And so, again, I can only say that I support your guys' efforts and support what you guys are doing. You just got to go through those policies. And I believe ASI actually did reach out to help you guys with the appeal process as well. So,
Ms. De La Cruz?
Okay, well, I'm part of Menchaca, and I am very aware of the issue that's going on. I just feel that there was a miscommunication between both groups, and I feel that it's one of the main aspects that we have to touch in our school, especially I'm going to work for Dog Days, so we're going to have a workshop that educates the incoming students and the staff that's going to be contacting these students, for their incoming freshman year. So I just feel that we all have to get educated on these issues, like the terms that we use to describe ourselves, like students of color. So I just kind of feel that ASI and the groups that want that funding should attend workshops for them to be educated on this issue. And I just feel that there was miscommunication between both parties, and if, just for the funding, itself, I was part of the workshop, I was a workshop presenter, and I understand the benefits from the students incoming to this event, that education is important because these students end up coming to Fresno State. So it's like a way for high school students to be interested in Fresno State, so.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Menchaca.
Well, it's an unfortunate event that the program wasn't funded, and I think it's something that ASI would have loved to fund and enabled ourselves to fund it for multiple years because, one, we do agree that diversity is an important aspect to the university. Getting my certificate in cross-cultural competency, one thing I found out was that, let me grab this. Sorry. Getting my certificate in cross-cultural competency, one thing that I've learned was we're always moving towards this goal of being culturally competent, but it's not necessarily an end goal. It's something we're constantly striving for. And so one of the areas is by reaching out to our youth, and that's something that I'm sure ASI would have loved to fund, but the specific grant that was applied for didn't meet the minimum specifications. And had there been a return email, return call, or the meeting with President Castro, or meetings now, that's something we'd love to explore. Because one thing we love in ASI is our abilities to bring different ideas, different cultures, different ways of thinking, even different academic backgrounds to the table. And at the end of the day, we always reach a consensus, whether we're in favor of something or against it, because we're here for the students as a whole. So I'm hoping that in the future we're able to address this and identify a more sustainable funding source for something as great as the youth conference that was discussed.
All right. Would any of the candidates like to ask any questions?
Just a question for Elizabeth. We actually attended a meeting together last night, and the question was brought up, the concern, being a part of Menchaca, being a part of that constituency, if elected president, how are you going to be able to show bias or show unbiased towards a group like that when it comes to this situation?
I'm actually a writer, so I write for the Community Alliance, and I was asked to write an article on this issue going on here on campus. So you have to kind of detach yourself from the situation and not have like a special interest on each group, just kind of present the truth based from your own point of view, Because, I am for Menchaca, but I also understand that ASI has policies, and based on the policies that they have, I come back to my point, there's miscommunication between both groups,
Definitely. Moses?
Senator Bertoni, you're a senator of clubs and orgs, and I remember during public comment, an individual had made a comment about the senator of clubs and orgs not doing their job. So how did you feel that you handled your position as a senator in this time?
Yeah, definitely. I could have been more aware of what was going on. I really could have. I could have sat in those finance committees. Again, I don't sit on the finance committee. I don't have a vote and say in what the vote was going to go, or which way the vote was going to go, and if you guys were going to receive funding or not. But I can say I could have done more advocating for you guys. I could have met up and been at meetings with you, and I apologize for that. I really do. I take full responsibility sitting in a position like that. But I do again say I respect what your club and organization does, and I really do legitimately support your guys' efforts. I do.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that Castro tweeted on your Twitter that Menchaca denied the meeting, but in reality they postponed it. Do you think there's something wrong there just by saying that they denied the meeting when in actuality they postponed the meeting? Because they wanted to include not only Menchaca but the other groups that are part of this group that got their funds denied.
Well, the conversation was that the division that had contacted the president of Menchaca was told that they were not interested in meeting right now and that they would be unavailable for the rest of the afternoon. Had we postponed it, then I would have been aware of a different time or date, but we're still trying to meet now, and I know now it's getting postponed. But I don't necessarily think that that's the issue. And one area that I'm curious as is we talk about other groups, but out of the 80-plus applications that we've had, we've only denied 4, one being Menchaca and the other one because it was turned in a couple days before. So that means only 2 other groups who might have these same issues or concerns. But I do want to say that during all this time, one thing that it did do was bring light to how great ASI really has been in reaching out to students and providing almost $100,000 worth of funds to provide on-campus events that are free and open to all students.
Any other questions? All right. So question number 6, and we'll start with Lizbeth De La Cruz. ASI president is the highest student officer on campus. What do you think the ASI president's role and relationship is with both students and faculty and administrators?
I feel like the student president here is like a bridge between the students and faculty here and like the administrative people here on campus. So we have the voice from the students. So we have to make sure that we are aware of everything that the students feel that they need here on campus and their opinions on issues such as tuition increase, diversity issues here on campus. So I just feel like the student body president should be like the one to communicate those things to the staff here on campus and the administrators here.
I think it's a mutually beneficial role where we can see that the admin are here in order to make sure that students' time here at Fresno State is successful and that they get a quality education. And being the student body president, it's our job to make sure that admin are doing that and to be, as Lizbeth had said, kind of that link between the two. And being ASI president, that's one thing that I've found was the difficulty of not only bringing the right people to the table, but the difficulty of having students come out and speak. So I've met with numerous students, and I'm constantly making myself available to students to address their concerns and the multitude in different areas. So I've had a meeting one time where a student was addressing the concern with the university pool and it not being open enough, and then running over to a meeting and talking about graduation rates and initiatives, and then running over and talking about Fresno State 101, which was really beneficial for students. So I think it's a balance that we really have to play as ASI presidents, but it's something that I think I was really successful at this year. I never had to reschedule except for one time with the student because I was meeting with an admin, and I think that's something that really goes into the hard work that being ASI president does. I'm hoping that whoever's elected can continue doing that.
Mr. Bertoni?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the two other candidates sitting here. It's definitely a balancing act in a sense. You're here to serve students first. That's the purpose of ASI. And as president, you do hold the highest office. But again, it's going to be about being as accessible and available to students as possible. And like Moses said, working with administration actually is what gets things done. But it's going to administrative meetings, knowing what the students want, and making myself as accessible to them. Having students in meetings. I want to constantly be in meetings with students, knowing what it is you guys want and what it is you guys need.
Any other questions? Yes, Moses.
Senator Bertoni, again, as Senator for Clubs and Orgs, how have you made yourself accessible to clubs and orgs, and how have you reached their concerns and addressed admin about it?
Yeah. Well, my point of contact being the Senator of Clubs and Organizations is Josh in the Student Involvement Center. So me and him have had multiple meetings this year, meeting up and talking about things. And one of the things that clubs and orgs here have to do in order to stay as a recognized club on campus is you guys have to go through a video tutorial. And some of the things me and him talked about was updating this video. With Vintage Days coming up, that's kind of been pushed to the side. He's really busy with that. But also constituent outreach. I'm going to be in charge of the next Thirsty Thursday coming out, and using tools such as OrgSync to get across to you guys to come, mingle, and just socialize with different clubs here for you. I'm going to be tabling an event for ASI this Saturday, actually, which makes ourselves, gives ASI exposure. We get to mingle, again, socialize with different clubs and organizations here. So just through events like that.
Definitely. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, can I ask a question? So we always talk about clubs and orgs, and how are we going to, Moses, if you want to talk about it first, how are you going to reach out to students that are not involved in any organization or club here on campus?
Well, I think one of the easiest ways is something that you benefited from was Fresno State 101 and providing those kind of opportunities. I'm also a campus involvement ambassador here on campus where we meet with students just to figure out different clubs to get them involved. A mentor of mine always says, you go to class to get your degree, but everything you do outside of class is where you truly get your education. And statistics show that students who get involved on campus tend to graduate quicker and have higher GPAs. So I think it's imperative that we continue to encourage students to get involved on campus in either a club or even just going to some of the events. So that's one thing I'd hope to do is be able to work with the Senator of Clubs and Orgs next year in order to provide more opportunities to reach out. And one thing that I think gives me a benefit is that instead of having to figure out what does it mean to be ASI president, since I've done it this whole past year, I'll be able to spend more time reaching out to the clubs, reaching out to students, and encouraging them to get involved in the shared governance process in different clubs as well as different university events.
Definitely. Any other questions before we open it to audience Q&A? All right. We'll now open the floor to audience Q&A. So if you guys have a question that you'd like to ask, please make your way. We'll use this mic right here. What would you like me to ask?
Yes,
Okay. And you can ask right here. There you are. Please say your name and major before asking your question.
My name is Daniel Thomas Clark. I'm a business marketing major here at Fresno State, mostly because I can't do math. So we're trying to light up the mood a little bit. Y'all stiff, man. Anyways, my name is Daniel Thomas Clark. I'm the current Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the California State Student Association. We're the statewide student group that represents all 437,000 students in the state of California. But what I am here to say is thank you for the Collegian for hosting this event, and congratulations to the individual sitting in front of us. Being president, you're overworked, you're underpaid, and you're never thanked for what you do. So for you to take this first step into student advocacy, I congratulate you all. But the question that I have is, what have you done in the past that has prepared you for this role as president? Jared Bertoni, you as senator, Lizbeth De La Cruz as with Club Austral and Menchaca, and then Moses with president. I don't know why I'm stumbling on that question. As a current ASI president, but that's the question I have.
Definitely. Thank you. I know how to do this, that's why.
Thank you for the question, Daniel. I know for me, I'd like to think of myself as a pretty diverse student here. I do have that ASI exposure and background here, which is going to be very important. Moses obviously is president, so the transition would be a lot easier, obviously. There's going to be a transition period if elected, if me or Elizabeth are elected. And I feel for me, having the exposure and background in ASI already will make that transition more tangible and easier for me. I've seen the past 3 presidents' administration. I've seen how they have done it and have that exposure as well to that. I feel like I'll be able to use all 3 of them. I still have great connections with all 3. As advice, as counsel, I want to have them involved with my presidency as well. I'm involved on campus. I serve as PR for the Sigma Chi fraternity. I reach out to the community all the time through that. And I am a local candidate. I know so many connections in the university, and again, I can't stress enough how excited the community is about this. So,
Elizabeth?
Well, to start with, during my high school year, I was president of an Ivy League school in Los Angeles. So I was involved in the process of getting that school being classified as an Ivy League school. So I always had that background of leadership back then. And now as in college, and as my undergrad, I hold offices, president, secretary, historian. And I was always involved, and I am involved currently in the community, not only here in Fresno, but back home where my dad's from. And we're actually getting a library built in Mexico right now. So I already have that background experience of getting things done and working with other groups here in the United States and in Mexico to get something done. Well, I'm currently president of Club Austral, and we work really close with the community members here in Fresno and other groups here on campus like Menchaca, Tel Tortilla, just different organizations here. So I have that leadership background.
Moses?
Well, I think the easy answer is ASI president. So I'm going to, keeps going. Wait, just follow.
Yeah.
So like I said, the easy answer would be saying I'm ASI president, but I'm going to forget about that for a second. Since being on campus, I've been secretary, treasurer, vice president, and at one time I was president of 3 different organizations. Phi Alpha Delta Pre-Law Fraternity, under my administration, tripled membership and almost tripled its pledging class. I started the fastest growing organization on campus, the Fresno State Gun Club, and under my administration as president of Moot Court, we've taken more teams to nationals than ever, and we've gone farther in nationals than ever. So I feel like those really equipped me to be an ASI president. I've also been heavily involved on campus academically. I'm going to get 7 different majors, minors, and certificates, so I know exactly what it takes in the different colleges and the different academic backgrounds. I've had semesters where I've had as many as 25 units, and semesters where I was just trying to find 1 unit to be considered a full-time student. I've had scholarships pay for my college, I've had financial aid pay for my college, and I've had to work to pay for college. So I can represent students in every capacity needed.
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Right there. There you are. Yes, they can be towards anyone or towards all of them.
All right, my name is John Savage. I'm a double major here at Fresno State. I'm a public relations as well as a political science major. This question is directed towards Moses. Did you join the Greek system as a 5th year to try and gain votes in the election? If not, why did you not go through the pledge process and get an early initiation into Pike?
Glad this was finally asked. Been waiting forever for this one. And I think it's asinine to even think that that's the case. In all honesty, the reason why I didn't go when I was younger, because I came into college with the whole perception and the typical perception of the Greek system. But it was Senator, or at the time he was Senator Mike Eberhard, who had changed my whole perception of it. And it became something where I said, well, this is something I hope my kids get into. And so in all honesty, I was with Senator Mason, who's part of SAE in Arizona, and we were at a bar, and somebody had yelled across from the bar, and they went up and shook hands, and Senator Mason got invited to the house, and I got jealous. I thought that's something that I wanted. And it just so happened that the next day, started meeting with some of the Pike brothers, Sean Kiernan, Daniel Clark, and started conversating about all the great things that can happen within the Greek system. And so it really kind of triggered my interest. I started talking a little bit more, and it's one of the best decisions I've made so far, and probably my biggest regret is not getting involved sooner. So thank you.
My question was, why did you go through an accelerated program of the pledge process and not go through the entire length?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Being ASI president, putting 40 to 50, 60 hours a week, there's not much time to go through that whole process. And a lot of the pledge time, usually the classes are a lot younger. So the conversation became, if this is something that we wanted to do, we meaning myself and we meaning Pike, looking at the best way to go about that to make sure that I could balance both of them, and it would be better to go through the special initiation and then have the post-education after that. So it's something that we've been working on a lot together, and it's something I think is beneficial because now I get to come in firsthand and see all the opportunities that there are, as well as not have to worry about balancing my job here as ASI president at re-election, as well as just being a student.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
My name is Austin Radke. I'm a biology major, freshman. My question also goes to the president, Mr. Menchaca. Earlier, you stated when I was talking about finances that you didn't know where our money went, and that was, you said something about tuition, and that was brought up, and you said, "Well, I don't even know myself." And for me, that's kind of concerning that our president, that represents 20,000 plus students, doesn't know where our tuition's going. So can you please elaborate on that and explain as to why we don't know where that's going?
I don't remember ever saying that because I do know where it goes. And yeah, the student success fee, well, that's the thing, is because it's a new fee that's coming about that has no guidance, no idea, no vision, because it has to start with the students. So if we want to talk about tuition, which is separate than fees alone, I was actually lobbying a few weeks ago to get more money because tuition is frozen, because we can't raise that in order to fund the education. And it's upsetting that our California legislature hasn't made the effort in investing in higher education. So now we're finding these different ways that we have to fund it. So the student success fee has no purpose yet, because it hasn't gone to students. And that's where the conversation with the students begins, is what are the needs, what are the areas? If that's academics, or if that's advising, then that's where it may possibly go. If it's tutoring, that's where it may possibly go. But there is no direction for the fee yet, or no implementation for the fee. So that's nobody, not even President Castro himself, knows where it's going. It's more just a conversation to be had, and following the trend of a lot of CSUs, where we're seeing a lot of them doing up to $200, $300, $400 in student success fees.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Right there. There you are.
All right. My name is Andy Mijas. I am a kinesiology major here. And my question is also for Mr. Menchaca. As a member of the Greek community, I know you said last year during your campaign you wanted to utilize and use the Greek system in leadership and projects. Why haven't we heard anything about this, or are you trying to reach out to us? And I'm not talking about currently when the elections were coming up. I'm talking about throughout the entire year.
And I think this also coincides with the Senator of Greek Affairs, since that's our primary job. Mike Eberhard did such a great job of it that when he was gone, we're kind of absent now and missing that channel and that link. So being ASI president, one of the first things that we come up with is all these goals, whether it's a pause plan or making ourselves accessible. Right from day one, you're thrown into the harsh reality of you're not just student government, you're a 501c3 nonprofit, and having to deal with other things. So we looked at different things, like in fall we had the pep rally, we had the first ever Central Valley Student Leadership Conference with us, CSU Stanislaus, CSU Bakersfield, and UC Merced. We hosted CSSA, and so that took the bulk of the fall semester. So then first thing we did coming spring semester is identify, okay, how are we going to go about implementing them? Because springtime is an efficient time where a lot of the outgoing presidents start to become outgoing and incoming presidents start to come in. So how are we going to work all summer long in order to bring something in the fall when it's heavy for recruitment time? So it just had to deal with timing and timetable. So if elected, I'm hoping we can continue that and start implementing the programs we've discussed recently.
We have time for one more question if anyone would like to ask one. I'll give the, can we do 2 more? Okay, sounds good.
Do I need to introduce myself?
Oh yeah, just name and major.
Hi, I'm Max Orloff. I'm a political science major. I just wrote this on my phone as it arrived. Lizbeth, it sounds amazing what you've done for the Mexican culture and students here at Fresno State and back at home. But with that arises a slight problem that comes to mind. A bias, like mentioned earlier. I want to know in the most direct way you can answer how a bias won't affect your daily ASI presidential agenda if elected, or your mindset.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've had that question asked. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I had that question asked. Someone asked it to me yesterday. I mean, I come from LA, so I had contact with different people. And moving to Fresno, I had contact with different other cultures here. So I am very aware of the different, like the needs that other groups have. So, I mean, I just emphasize the stuff that I'm more involved with because, I mean, I can't claim, how do you say this? I can't claim the things that other groups have done. So I am, like, invited to other events, and I do go to them. But I can't emphasize that I am part of that group because I am not involved to the fullest extent to it. So, I mean, I understand your concern, and, I mean, I have the same concern for any of the other 2 president candidates. You know, it's just to have that representation here on campus. But I am very open to attending any other events here on campus that don't involve the Latino community here. So, yeah, I appreciate your question, and I know it's something that's very important here because, I mean, we are part of Fresno State, and we don't only have Mexicans here or Latinos, you know, so.
All right, one more question right there. Okay. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you all for being here. And just a note, there's not only guys in this room. So my question is addressed towards Bertoni and Menchaca, but Lizbeth, feel free to chime in. Oh, I don't think I said my name. Josue Villanueva, Geomatics Engineering. So you have both strongly advocated hearing the voice of the students that you represent. Yet at the previous ASI meeting, students and community members witnessed the outright suppression of our voice. You cut down our time to 1 minute. The voice of your constituents, how do you plan to better that?
Yeah, I'm sorry that for time purposes you weren't given more than a minute, but to keep an effective meeting going, that's what the Senate had decided.
Sorry about that.
To keep an effective meeting going, that's what the Senate had decided to do. Unfortunately, both parties weren't appeased, and I apologize for that.
Well, both of you have mentioned that hearing the voice of the students is your main focus. I just think that's kind of a contradictory statement, seeing what just happened.
Yeah, and earlier in my when questions and answers were going, I said I'd love to see more students out at public comment. Unfortunately, for that meeting, there was an overload of students, and you're completely right. Students should have their amount of time to say what they need to say. But in order for us to have an effective meeting that day, time did have to get cut down. But we're having a Senate meeting tomorrow, and I encourage more public comment to come.
Well, it's unfortunate that the time had to be restrained, but in order to run an effective meeting and to remember the fact that we are students and our primary role here is academics and most of us have classes at 6, we had to make sure to put up those barriers. So then the question becomes accessibility towards students. And what I saw was the majority of the people in public comment at that time that were yelling at our senators were not students. And having to deal with the senators and the executives and the student assistants and having to deal with some of the feelings that they had as faculty members and as community members who were yelling at them, that becomes my primary concern. I'm accessible to students. We would love to sit down and meet with the student leaders of those clubs and organizations. We've made ourselves accessible to that. And going forward, we would invite any students to come and speak. But the second we start getting community members and faculty coming and yelling at our students and not fostering an environment of education and growth, that's when we have to put some restraints and some guidelines in order for the safety of ASI representatives. Yeah, the 3 or 4 students that were, or 5 or 6 students that were there, we definitely appreciate those conversations, and we would love to meet with them within the time and have those conversations. And we feel that if more students were there, then we would have been able to have those conversations outside and host meetings in order to continue having those opportunities to speak. But unfortunately, being student representatives, it is imperative that we get through our agenda, and we needed to put up the time restraints so that we can get to the agenda, since public comment is one of the first things on there.
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry that we have to cut it off there. We'll let our candidates do their closing statements now, and where they'll just wrap up what their campaign's about, and then we'll conclude the debate.
Again, I just can't thank you guys all enough for being here today, voicing your concerns, your opinions, asking questions. Because student government is for you. This is almost a bigger deal for you guys than it is for us. I mean, we would be put in this capacity to serve you guys, but like I said before, it's shared governance. If elected, we have to put ourselves and our agendas to the side because we need to know what it is you guys want and what you guys need. Again, I do have ASI background and exposure. I know I'm the youngest candidate. I think we have a special thing that we can do here. I can reach out and do appeal to the younger students that are coming here to Fresno State right now currently. And with Moses, he's been able to serve in this capacity, show you what he can do. Elizabeth, I think it's great she's reaching out to ASI. And regardless if none of us are elected or not, I know personally for me, I can speak on behalf of myself, I want to continue to be involved with ASI and continue to advocate and voice advocate for the student voice here at Fresno State. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. Ms. De La Cruz.
I just want to thank everyone for being here. I heard this is like one of the biggest groups we've had for this type of thing. So I just kind of want to emphasize that I am new for an ASI, but I also have like fresh eyes and kind of like new ideas on how to help ASI reach out to more students. So I think that could be one of the positives for being involved here. And I am kind of like thankful that Moses started the Fresno State 101 because then I wouldn't have known of this. So if I am elected, I would like to continue the projects that, that he has started. And because, I mean, they're very beneficial not only for me as a student, but for the whole college experience.
Thank you very much, Mr. Menchaca.
Well, thank you again, Jesse, and thank you, the Collegian, for giving us the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for taking the time to come out here. Most of you probably already have your minds made up about which candidate you're going to select or vote for. But what I do encourage you to do is go back considering the fact that the individual who's selected is going to represent all students. And whether that individual is myself or the other 2 candidates, make sure that you're voting for the candidate that's going to be able to provide the strongest voice and be able to conversate with admin, with students, and with the rest of the faculty about the needs and the areas of concern for students. That being said, I feel I am the most qualified candidate in that regard, not only because of my experience, but also because I can relate to students academically, outside of the classroom, and involved in other opportunities. It has been an honor to serve this past year, and I hope that I'm selected again to continue serving in order to make Fresno State's future bright and better for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of the candidates, the Collegian, and our production crew, we'd like to thank you for coming out to this debate. Remember to vote next Tuesday, March 24th through 26th. Voting will close noon on March 26th. Thank you very much. 25th through the 27th. Thank you, Daniel. All right, thank you so much, and I'm sure the candidates would love to talk to you if you guys would like to talk to them. Thank you so much.